song.
Let's go!
Mystic man, stop and
You people, come back to the Fix Podcast, episode 225. It's your boy Naro here with Ari. All right, we have a couple of special guests in the building. One was invited, one was uninvited. And he's off screen. Well, if not alone. Yeah, sometimes here, sometimes within the recording, I think. But yes, on-screen guests, official guests, President of Ineffable Records. There we go. Adam Gross in the building. He's telling us his middle name is.
His middle name is.
These people actually believe that. Yeah. Obviously, you know. Is it gross or gross? Adam is gross.
Wow.
That's what Americans say, gross, right?
It's gross. I mean,
yeah, but most Americans say gross.
Yeah. And me see man say, yeah, that's
gross.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah.
That's gross. Bless up, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. You're in town for the IMC, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Which is Island Music Conference.
There we go.
So tell us a little bit about it. You just promote it. I'm assuming you want to promote it a little bit. And like what you've been doing on the panel and what's your main area of topic.
Yeah, so they invited me to come speak on a couple panels. So one is the pros and cons of owning your own masters, something I care a lot about. I think all artists should own their masters, and I think that's something we can talk about here as well. And the other topic that I'm going to talk about is reggae around the world, outside of Jamaica, what's going on with these different markets and all these different parts of the world. So those are the two main things I want to talk about. And something I focus a lot on in general is just kind of providing information to artists, independent artists, aspiring professionals about like how do you actually build your audience and how do you create a sustainable business for yourself. So that's kind of a lot of what I'm trying to put forward.
Okay. And then, I mean, the panel, I'm assuming like most people always hit you up in the DMs or asking you questions and like, whoa, So you feel like it just makes sense to just do this panel and be a part of this panel to answer all questions pretty much.
Yeah. And I think it's just something I'm naturally thinking about all the time, like probably too much. I started doing like social media content, just talking about this stuff like, I don't know, 4 weeks ago or something like that. And I've been getting a very good response to it.
So wait, did you do, or you started to do because I saw it on Instagram. Yeah. So you started to do it before you got invited, or was it after you got invited?
I don't remember the exact. It's kind of had nothing to do with it necessarily, but it was just more so just like I just generally think that like this entire industry works better when we're just sharing information. And I think if you're afraid of sharing information, it's because you're afraid that you're not going to keep learning more. And there's a lot of old school gatekeepers that exist in this world who, if your entire business model is like, hey, I get this and then I connect you to this, it's like, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a sustainable thing for people. So to me, it's like, let's share information with people. Let's give people the tools to grow their own fan bases, to put money in their pocket every month from their music. And, if we need to work together, we work together. But if not, I just want to provide that information because I think it's like something that we're just missing a lot of right now.
All right, before we go any further, inform the people as to what else it is that you do, because I think I did your intro, gross injustice.
That's clever. I feel like I'm 11 again, which was like 2 years ago. No.
Yeah, what you do to be able to talk and speak on this?
Yeah. So you're president of
Ineffable Records. Yeah. That's one division of our company, Ineffable Music Group. So we have three main divisions: the record label, we have a management company, and we have a live division. So the management company, full service management, we manage artists, all aspects of their career. Live business, we own or operate 10 music venues, and we have ownership in a number of festivals as well. And then the record label, we're signing artists just for on the recorded music side and developing those projects, usually a project or two at a time, and kind of releasing that music and growing those audiences and focusing on doing deals where the artists are owning their masters, where they're owning their publishing, and whatever we're asking for percentage wise, I feel like we're going to move the needle more and put more money in their pocket than if they went and uploaded it themselves on DistroKid or one of these services and kept 100%.
Okay.
That's the way I think about anything I'm adding on. What is our value add? And is it great enough that it's going to put more money in their pocket than if they went on and did it themselves? Which is why I think this information is possible. So through all of that, between our management roster and our label roster, we've become the top independent reggae label. The last 4 years in a row, if you pull up like the year-end Billboard labels chart.
I wonder if there's an award for this.
Is there an award for it?
Yeah,
I don't think so. But
for him to say that, like, yeah, we're the top, like, we won awards for this type of
no, but just pull up the, no, but I think,
that's the award in itself.
It's just a stat. So, I think we do that in terms of a lot of different markets. So we work with a lot of the biggest artists in the kind of American, California kind of scene. So Stick Figure, who's become the biggest artist in that space, who also last 4 years in a row, if you pull up the year-end artist charts, it's Bob Marley #1 in sales and Stick Figure #2. We also work with some of the biggest artists in Hawaii, like J-Boog, The Green, and then we work with a lot of artists in Jamaica. We put out an album for Conscience. We put out an album for DeMarco.
I saw that Jesse Royal was on your
Jesse Royal's a management client. We do all of Kes the band's music out of Trinidad, so we do soca. We think that this whole entire scene exists worldwide, a lot bigger than people see it to be. So like, I'll find something, this band we work with called DMP, they're from the Solomon Islands. Like, have you ever heard of the Solomon Islands before?
Yeah.
Okay, well, a lot of people haven't heard of the Solomon Islands.
Do they have camels there?
They do have cameras there.
Camels.
Oh, I don't think so. That's an inside joke. We've already got inside jokes here, so no. But just as an example, like that's a country, Solomon Islands. They have this band DMP, and they're huge there. Someone sends me the music. I'm like, this is dope. All right, let's do it. Like there is music, reggae music and reggae influenced music all around the world. Yeah. And when all of these different places come together, the overall scene is much bigger than people think it is.
So, I mean, I realized that Ineffable Records really mostly focus on reggae music. So it's like a reggae music label. That's your, I guess, your differentiation from like, I guess, a Sony on.
I think reggae, dancehall, soca, music that's influenced by all of that. The way I put it, especially like in the US and kind of the different kind of bands that we work with, where it's like a combination of reggae and alternative or this or that. It's like in that space, it's like, it all meets at the beach. You know what I mean? Like these different scenes. And I think it's kind of looking at these different like Venn diagrams of where different music genres exist and trying to pull them together, because people listen to music more today based off of mood and vibe than genre. So I don't like to be like, yo, we work with this genre, that genre. Like I'm trying to think about things in terms of like, well, this could fit on a workout playlist, or this could fit on your chill playlist, or you're going out at night, like all really this kind
Spotify
of stuff.
Spotify behavior, that.
Yeah, exactly. But all the platforms and just thinking about like the more we can kind of create collaborations from different markets coming together, then the more that reach can expand. And that's something that I'm thinking about a lot, is like, how can we take an artist from point A who has whatever number of monthly listeners, and how can I like think about it and be like, all right, yeah, we're gonna double that, we're gonna triple that, we're gonna quadruple that, and here's how that can happen.
So how did you get involved in this gentrification process?
How did I get involved in this gentrification process? Well, first of all, should I answer the question about gentrification to start off, or do I just take that as like?
Let's start with the history.
Because we can get into that too. I mean, that's an important thing.
Why you get the music? Why reggae music?
Yeah.
Like, why you get involved?
Yeah. So I grew up in New York City originally. I live in California now.
That's where the beach come in.
But New York, no. But New York, just the kind of music I loved growing up and I was exposed to. So even when I was in high school, I played in like a reggae band with a bunch of kids who lived in Flatbush, and we'd go and play. I was the only non-Jamaican kid in the band. We'd go play in the backing band at like churches and different things. So I got exposed to a lot of music from them. So like Beres Hammond was like everybody's favorite artist at that time when I was a kid. I'm 27, so this isn't like that long ago that I'm talking about. And so I was influenced by all this stuff. It's just what I loved. And then from there, over time, as I kind of graduated college, and then I joined on with the people at my partners now at Ineffable, and then we kind of launched the label arm of the business and these different things. It's like, over time, what I kind of began to realize is that like there's been a way in which artists have been really taken advantage of, and we can put forth a different model, where people can actually be treated in a way that's fair and they can actually make money. And that's kind of because you said it initially that,
you try to evaluate your proposition, as you say, where artists would come to you, and it would make more sense to come to you because you provide a service for them that they probably couldn't do it on their own, or if they do it on their, if they went straight independent. Like, but speak on that, like why would they why should an artist come to you as a label, where we've seen so many I guess, horror stories of how labels take advantage of artists, or them get enough, that little, they get little, the artists get little, and the label benefits mostly from it. So why?
Because I wake up in the middle of the night scared of becoming that guy. like,
wait,
you know what I mean?
Which guy?
Like I wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares of becoming the label that everyone is, thinking about in that way. You know, like that horror story of like, all right, now you've become the guy you don't want to be, right? So that's when I think about adding something on, and when we think about bringing something into the fold, I have to feel very confident that we're going to be able to have the time, resources, and money necessary to be able to treat that thing with the time and respect that it needs to be able to grow to be able to move the needle in that way.
Because you mentioned Stick Figure too, because I was reading an an article, and you talk about how Stick Figure, he was pretty much an independent artist, but it's still still is, but it's under your, I guess, on the Ineffable's, I guess, tutelage or guidance.
So independent label.
So Stick is a management client. He's part of the management division. The label, assists in all of his releases. Stick is an example of an artist who, basically has grown independently the whole time. So producer, he does every single element of the sound himself. And he just got better and better at producing every year of his life. Spends a crazy amount of time in the studio at all times and just focuses on that every day. So he picked a consistent message within the music, and people got drawn to it because it's providing a lot of value in their lives. You go to the YouTube comments on his stuff, and it's like, I was about to like literally jump off a bridge, and then I listened. Like, it's very like emotional in that way for people. And so there's been this thing that's been tacked into,
like, Stick Figures never fail. That's another inside joke.
Yeah, I'm not part of that one. I knew the gross or the camel. Yeah, no, but it's like this idea of like, this is how you grow really an audience without having to be so reliant on other people. Is you pick a sound and you get better and better and better at that sound, and you have people who know what to expect from you. And then you can grow that audience. Those people are going to show it to other people. It's going to start recommending it in the algorithms to people who are similar to that, and it's going to keep growing. If you're shooting all over the place and you do one record that's like this and one record that's like that and all this stuff, it's way harder to actually build that fan base. So it's been done through that understanding of, he understands his brand. He understands what the fans want, and thinks about stuff in terms of value add. Like, what am I doing?
Okay. So what does Ineffable provide? So you say it's just management. So he's an independent artist. So that means what? He owns his publishing and... He
owns his publishing and his masters. All of our label clients also own their publishing and their masters.
Okay. So then what does Ineffable provide?
So for Stick, basically we're helping oversee the three main parts of his business. So live, merchandise, and recorded music. So that's the way we see management client. Those are the three main things. And so, you're helping strategize to grow those three things essentially. So I'm mainly focused on the recorded music side and growing it there. But the entire team, my partner Thomas, who manages Stick, is overseeing all aspects of that. So even like the live side, which is a really interesting thing. I think a lot of people don't understand the way that, the building on the live side influences festivals and things like that, right? It's all about building hard ticket history, which means I'm going to play the show in LA and I can sell this many tickets when it's my show, not a built-in, there's a reggae night Tuesday night or this or that. It's like, this is my show and I can sell this many tickets. And that's how promoters know how much to offer you for a festival in that market. And so that's an artist who's built
touring strategy. Very important touring
built strategy. A hard ticket history over time while also owning your masters and this merch business, and you have all these things, and you can then make the best decisions for yourself because you're not reliant on just one thing. You can go play a show in Europe if you're in the US and lose money or something like that because you have these other revenue streams. And that's kind of why, to me, the pushing forward master ownership and us not owning masters of our label clients and that, and me thinking about our label clients in terms of very specifically, all right, here's what we're going to do. Here's how I see how you're underperforming on Spotify, how you're underperforming on YouTube, how if we collaborate here or we put this producer in or this or that, or here's the way I think of it in the next 2 years, how I know we can grow it in this way. And you're not right 100% of the time. But,
Would you say that's a major difference between an independent label and a major label? Like some of the things that you mentioned that you do for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's independent labels that are bad actors as well. It's not just an independent versus major thing. And I think there are lots of people at majors who are doing good things too. So it's not just one versus the other. But I think specifically for us, it's a matter of really rolling up our sleeves and being like, yo, what can I do here? I'm not just trying to make this like this huge pool of assets that I'm invested in, that if one of them pops off, I don't care if the rest fail. So yes, the major label model in general is I'm going to shoot like,
many
500 bullets out there. And if I hit one person, this is a crazy analogy. I don't know why that came to my mind.
It's the American in you.
My mind, it goes somewhere else too.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's
I'm taking basketball. Okay.
Right.
It's a basketball analogy. For me, I miss 100% of the shots that I take in basketball. But that's the model. It's like, yo, you put up money in all these different things. You don't need to pay attention to all of them necessarily, because if one is popping and then the rest of your money is coming from your catalog, the majority of the money is coming from catalog 20, 30 plus years ago. So then it's really a top heavy thing. The 1 or 2 records that are really hitting in that office, that's what they're gonna push into, especially because they're getting 85, 90% of the back end on it. So if it works out, boom, we hit the lottery.
I want to ask now, isn't it not the goal of Ineffable to move from an independent label to a major label? That's not a part of that, like the goal is to become bigger.
Yeah, we're definitely always trying to get bigger, and we're growing a lot every year. But just to explain the kind of specific difference between independent label and major label. Major label just means that you're owned by Warner, Universal, or Sony. So there's 3 big corporations who own a lot of these different subsidiaries, imprints in different countries. So you'll have like Sony Music UK, and you'll have Warner here, then you'll have Columbia, or you have RCA, and these different sub labels. And then they're also buying up a lot of independent distributors as well. All the time, because they're realizing that these things are growing because there's a specific value add here, and it's okay. Well, let's invest into this too.
That is how independent labels become majors in a sense.
In a sense, I mean,
conglomerates, right?
But they're not necessarily becoming majors. Like 300
parts of a
Entertainment,
major.
300 Entertainment, and that kind of whole model, and the way they did that, and that's Kevin Lyles and Leo Cohen, and that whole thing in the Atlanta hip hop world. Like they got acquired by Warner, but they're still kind of operating in like that independent kind of DNA of it all. So there's
some
different
can
ways
still
to
have
do
that
it.
sexy independent label.
Say that again?
Correct.
No, some can still have that, that appealing I'm independent label attached to them.
Yeah, you can.
But they still have the help from a major.
They do, but it's really interesting because what you start to see over time is there's certain red tape, and again, there's a lot of advantages of being a major, there's advantages of being independent, and everyone has their own things that make sense for them, But there's a lot of red tape in these situations. Like even if you're in a situation where you're with a distributor that's owned by a major, there's certain things that a platform might be beta testing, like Spotify might be beta testing a certain feature, and they won't allow you to beta test it because they need to negotiate on behalf of the entire business on how that's going to work out before. Whereas if you're independent and someone's like, yeah, we're beta testing this new feature, it's going to increase the streams on this song by this much, but whatever, we can go in there and be like, yes, let's go. Let's beta test it. Let's beta test it. We're down to be a guinea pig. We don't need to wait 2 years until the lawyers have approved this new method of doing this or that. It's just like we see something we want to do and we can do it the next day.
That's good. So I guess there's no, and even if it works or it don't work, so in real time, and you're willing to try it without, as they said, the bag of red tape. Really.
Yeah.
And you also, you can get a chance to get the jump on something that's going to become a trend.
Yeah.
So like something like Reels, just to give an example, everybody would understand if you were an independent artist and Instagram said, hey, we're trying out this new thing called Reels, but we're only going to let 100 artists do it at first to see how it works. You can jump on that and be early. And then what happens if you're early is then are ahead of the algorithm.
Yeah.
And nobody got to catch up with you.
Build up your audience quicker.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can get special treatment with the button.
And I don't know what the button is.
But to eat it up,
But it is like there are opportunities, like every platform peaks in terms of its organic reach, right?
Yeah.
So like if you remember maybe 3 years ago when you post on Instagram, you got more views or likes than you do now, or maybe not you guys because you got like a brand being built, whatever. But a lot of people like notice that, right? And that's because every platform reaches its peak because the company needs to get to a point where they have so many people on the platform, and then they need to start think about profitability. So then they want to start charging you to reach your own audience. So that happens with every single platform and just most tech platforms in general. It's like, all right, we're going to get you to a point where your organic reach is great. It's going to maximize, we're going to get as many people on the platform as possible. We're going to loop you in where this is a part of your life. It's really valuable to you, to your business, to your brand, to whatever. Now you got to start paying to reach that audience because we need to start being profitable.
Damn.
Yeah, process this?
Yeah, so like, give an example of which platform, or is it Spotify? Because I know artists complain about Spotify all the time. Like they're saying that, it feels like the whole world have a Spotify, except Jamaica, car. Yeah, them not really like we. But the whole world pretty much have a Spotify account, and that's how most people consume their music. But you're saying that the artists now, they have to like pay to play in some aspect?
I think in terms of like specifically the issue of why do dance hall artists from Jamaica under index on Spotify? I guess what it's called, right? It's you under index on certain platforms, you over index on certain platforms, meaning the numbers on that platform that you're getting there are representative of what your actual fan base is, or they're over or under representative, right? So Spotify definitely, it under indexes kind of like the core dancehall artists, where if you pull up the YouTube charts and you see there's a Chronic Law and a Skang and a TJ and that kind of group of artists, and you pull up their Spotify numbers, it's not nearly as high as you would think. And I think that's happening for a number of reasons. I think, the way that music is consumed locally, where it's most popular, is mainly YouTube. That's what people are going to. They're not having to pay for a premium subscription. Right. And that's kind of where it's generating its most excitement. And then Audio Mac as well, obviously here, in terms of being like that thing that's like working in that way. And so, I think it's a matter of like, well, what is the primary consumption method where the music is most popular? And I think for that style of dancehall to continue to grow and to get to, I think, where it needs to get and where it will get, there needs to be a continued kind of understanding of, well, what are some like intersecting subgenres and genres and artists around the world that we can keep collaborating with, and collaborate with them in a way where we're properly tagging the releases on Spotify to pop into their audience, so we can bring those monthly listeners as to a part of our monthly listeners, and think about collaborations with places where we can grow this kind of overall space. And because I think it's not necessarily an issue of, specific artists are being like not allowed to reach the audience they need to, or need to pay for, or something like that. It's just a matter of like, at the end of the day, what you know. And if YouTube is the main thing and Audio Max is the main thing, the strategy for Spotify for a lot of these artists might not be their kind of top of mind thing. Yeah.
But then Spotify, does it pay more, or versus like the YouTube, the Audio Mac, does it pay more? Like
every platform pays a different amount in every single market. And you kind of guess which markets pay out better than others, because it's based around a percentage of the entire money. So for instance, for Spotify, I believe they're paying out 70% of what comes into artists, and then they keep like 30% of it. It might be 60-40. I think it's around 70.
And I know that it's better than YouTube.
It's way better than
I know it's better than YouTube.
Yeah, it is better. It is better than YouTube, but you can have a video that's doing really well on YouTube and you're making tons of money from it. You guys have a YouTube channel, and honestly, your whole entire thing and the way that you've built your brand on YouTube and the way the podcast has been built is a perfect example for how independent artists can build on every platform, because you have found a thing that works for you guys, developed a market where people know what to expect from you. And then over time, you're like, okay, well, I learned that this thumbnail works better than this thumbnail. So you're probably using a different thumbnail. This title works better than this title. Oh, when we talk about this, look how many views these videos get in the last 48 hours. Then let's make more videos like that. So you're learning from all this information you have to make the best decisions about your podcast. That's the same thing artists can do with their music. You've released 20 songs. Here's what's worked. Here's what hasn't worked. And you can make those A&R decisions just based on information that you have.
I read some of the recommendations we have for the artists for grow. And when we read through the whole of them, I say, so we go through the whole process.
Let's talk about album though, because you mentioned that and we were literally having a conversation about an album that was released, and we're looking at the numbers. And I mean, from your aspect as a president, Jamaican music, they don't really sell great. Like, let's be honest. Like, they don't. Like, they must sell like 300, one sell 3. Like, it's very paltry. And do you, as a president, do you care about record sales for Jamaican artists? Because I don't think the space.
I think it's interesting, because I definitely think there's a a lot of, kind of headlines around when a Jamaican artist drops an album and it's like, numbers are in for the first week and they sold this many things. And it's like, it's not necessarily the best indicator of popularity. And I think there's too much in our world in general, the way social media and headlines and things work, that like things that are going to create, like a negative attention or more engagement is going to just get out there more and people are going to engage with them more. So I think that has led to an extra focus on that kind of thing that's not as important, because the reality is like people need to understand that like the way that we consume is changing all the time. Like there's no reason for me to go buy an album on iTunes. And I'm not going to go out there and be like, hey, you know what? You're a fan of this artist. You want to support them? Go buy it on iTunes. No. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So, I think it's just a matter of understanding that streaming equivalencies and how that works, and a certain number of streams, converts to the album sale, and thinking about things in that way. And also, you could have a situation where you released 15 singles before the album and you released your huge album, and then all of those streams and those singles for that first week, those equivalencies are counting towards those album sales too. Yeah. And then there's all sorts of other stuff in terms of the way that, maybe you're on the road during that time and you're selling actual physical albums at shows, and maybe you sell more physical albums at shows than you do if not. So there's a lot of ways for these numbers to not necessarily be the most
the true,
indicative of what's going on. And I think people need to have a better understanding of that and be like, it's just not the end all be all, because again, like, no, we're not moving back to a time where people are going to start buying albums anymore. It's just like, it's just an antiquated way of thinking.
Yeah. Because
but what
I
I want
realize
to know
you're
is
live.
like, why is that with the album sales? At least people would want to know, why is it that, we have the likes of Popcorn, you have the likes of Coffee, Shensia, all of which have released, big albums within the last year or so. Why is it that they release their albums and you see the numbers that they do? And then you look at Stick Figure now, and you see that they do like over 10,000, 13,000 first week. Like, what are they doing differently? How can we reach up to those figures? Artists.
I think it's kind of the method that Stick has grown over time. It's this idea that people are waiting for each album. Like, it's about having that full length thing and it being a part of people's lives in that way, and it not being hit reliant, not being like, well, here's what everyone's talking about right now, I want to be a part of it. It's like, this is, you like that, about it before everybody else. And because of that, you want to support it. Like, there's this kind of idea of this fan karma meter where if you're an artist and you're giving people value all the time, you're creating content for people, you're putting it out there every single day, you're, just giving stuff for free, and they feel like, in my life every day, things aren't great all the time, this and that. I go on my social media and here's some stuff that's providing value. Then when you go and you ask for that favor to buy a ticket, to stream the album, to buy the album, people are way more likely to do it. So I think it's just an understanding of a brand at such a really high level. And also the fact that we have to understand how different streams count. So like YouTube plays don't equivalent or do not work in the same way in terms of streaming equivalencies as Spotify stream. So naturally, if you're an artist who does a lot on YouTube, your first week sales numbers aren't going to translate as well. So I think it's just, you have to think about where the music is consumed from and how, and I think the best way to build on that and to have higher streaming equivalencies is to really focus on building the core. Like, ultimately, that Stick Figure story is about the core. Like, there are
core audience.
People who would say, this is my number one favorite artist, and I'm going to listen to every album that comes out for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, and it's going to keep, the production quality is going to keep getting better. And this is my number one thing. That's the thing, really. And I think there's certain artists that have done that really well and who have kind of built cores in that way. Obviously, I actually think that, an interesting example is when you think of like, when Dexta Daps was putting out his album and Call Me If was kind of doing his thing and that. And Dexta, to me, was a good example of an artist who when you look at the artists that are popular on the YouTube charts in Jamaica versus a dancehall artist that might be popular in the US or in the UK or here and that, Dexta to me is a good example of somebody who's able to kind of do a bit of both. And that album streamed really well.
Yeah.
Because you do need to have the support of your core audience, but you also need to live with, beyond that.
Yeah. And I realize that the live music aspect or the venues that you guys have ownership in is also instrumental for the artists, because people don't buy, as you say, and I realize that people don't buy physical albums anymore, but they do go to a concert, they do go to the shows, and I think does that in any way, does it correlate in any way with their overall? I think it doesn't correlate with the album sales, no? But it's just another good stream of income to have, and that's where you say where their audience, as you said, the core audience, come to support.
Yeah, I think us being on the live side, we really understand how the live world works and how to build somebody and how to build your hard ticket history and get you to a point where, you know, you have this demand in as many markets as possible. Because these artists are playing, you know, majority venues that aren't necessarily ours because it's a huge country and whatever. But I do think it's...
like how many people can your most, like, your largest venue?
Like 900.
Okay.
So just mid-level, smaller rooms. But I think understanding the live aspect of things, like Kali Buzz was our first ever client before my time, and my partners Igor and Thomas, they started managing him. They went to college together. Kali came out, did a show at their local venue, the Catalyst in Santa Cruz, California. And, you know, that kind of started the relationship there. They built Kali as a hard ticket artist with a core, right? He has a lot of markets within the US and different places, and then built himself independently where he has a great merch game, he has great live numbers, and he has great streaming numbers, and he's making money directly from his streams. But it's been built from a long, long time ago to be a hard ticket artist. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages when we talk about these different markets around the world, that artists that are from the country that they're trying to build and have, right? If you go to France and you want to go to a reggae show, the artist who's going to sell the most tickets in France is an artist from France. They have an advantage. They're in France and they're building in France. If you go to California, an artist in California is building in California. It's a real disadvantage and a serious problem that we have, where if you're in Jamaica, you have the entire world to build in. So where do you go focus in? And that was actually on purpose. This is sponsored by...
Right.
You know, there's like this idea that, you know, you have so many different places that you can focus on. And then if you want to go tour in the US, you have to pay 30% to the US government. And then you got to fly in your band. And there's serious disadvantages and things that need to be done to make that process easier. But that's really one of the barriers to entry of artists in whatever country they're in have an advantage in that country.
Would Ineffable Records help in that way? If
in terms of
sign with you, would you be able to help in moving the band? And
I mean, I think anything we're doing, we want to figure out how to build it in the US and in everywhere. So I think it's just about identifying, you know, where something makes sense and then like kind of pushing it forward.
It seems like with all that you just said, you've been able to create like your own reggae ecosystem, if you're a reggae oriented ecosystem, if you will.
Yeah, and honestly, the way I think about it is like there's a physical and a digital ecosystem in every single scene that there is, right? Like you pull up, specifically if you're in Jamaica and you go on YouTube and you're a fan of like the Valiant and like this kind of sound, right? Like you pull up one video and it's going to start recommending you all sorts of other videos that are similar. You're part of that digital ecosystem. If you're on Spotify in the US and you're listening to Stick Figure and Stick Figure is growing at the top of that scene, then people who are making similar music, the algorithm can start recommending it to stuff. And so it creates a whole other ecosystem below it. It's the same thing that's happening with YouTube here with artists. And that's where artists need to continue to expand and understand how each platform works, because as those scenes grow and as there are kind of artists that are growing in those different places, it creates an entire ecosystem beneath it. And I think when you think about artists like Sean Paul and Shaggy and kind of like that level, it's like they have markets literally everywhere in the world they can tap into and kind of grow in those places. And even those artists specifically having those markets worldwide does allow people who make similar music to have something that's going to get recommended to it, right? And I think this is where algorithms are really important, because like if you don't have, like, let's say there's a genre and there's no, you know, major female artist in that genre, right? And the biggest male artist is 20 times bigger than the biggest female artist in that space. If you're a smaller female artist starting off, the algorithm has nowhere to recommend you. It's going to recommend you to the fans of that big male artist. And then there's certain men who don't want to blast the music in their car of a woman singing because they're uncomfortable with whatever the fuck it is.
You can't tell me what to do.
The algorithm starts to squash female artists.
So it look at gender too, like even that gender, the gender of the person that's listening.
It doesn't. The algorithm isn't necessarily saying, "Oh, the gender of the person is this or that." But what it is doing is it's saying, "All right, I'm going to recommend this song to under the ecosystem of whoever the biggest artist is in this space. And if the biggest artist is a male artist and the next biggest female artist is 20 times smaller, and it recommends it to the male artist, and 60-70% of that male artist's fans are men, it's going to recommend it to those men, and they're going to not finish the song maybe because they're, as I said, they don't like feel comfortable listening to that stuff or whatever stupid thing it is, and it's going to make that song seem like it's not doing as well because people aren't going to like it as much, and so it just starts squashing things, right? And all algorithms are just learning human behavior in certain respects, right? But then there's other crazy things too, where you notice trends where all of a sudden, you know, you can't get YouTube ads to run in a certain market if it's like overly sexualized. And then you're like, oh, wait, like, why is it saying this is overly sexualized? This isn't overly sexualized. Why is it? Is there like a racial element to this? Is there, you know, there's literally so many different things that these computers learn over time, you know, that's based in like just ridiculous, you know, sometimes antiquated stuff, and then sometimes just
wouldn't that be the programmer? Because the AI is learning from the person who programmed it, so it's the programmer's own, I guess. To some extent, for sure, but also just like that method that I just explained specifically of like the streaming of the male artist and the female artist, like that's literally just it not knowing, the algorithm not knowing who to recommend it to because there isn't that space. But once you have that top level thing, everything can grow beneath it. When you think about like the more like, you know, reggae revival, like kind of movement or whatever, you know, people want to call it different things. And, you know, when the Chronology album came out for Chronix, like at that point in time, he had the show in New York or in Brooklyn at Celebrate Brooklyn. It was a free show. And then the next day there was an article in the New York Times. Rob Kenner, awesome writer, wrote saying like, you know, Chronix is taking over the world, reggae, blah, 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 right? There was this moment where like there was such an excitement over that album release. Yeah. Such an excitement. And he was kind of the leader of that space. Yeah. So everybody beneath it had a way better opportunity to get on a tour, to get on in the digital ecosystem, to get recommended things. So it's just a matter of whoever these top line people are, you know, depending on where they are, it creates a whole ecosystem below.
They pull people with them.
Yeah. My other question too is that you talk about not hit driven, which is weird for Jamaicans because Jamaicans love hits. And it's one of the topics that we actually... And if you not hit, you're cold. And it's one of the topics that we're actually going to discuss, you know, where the new artist, as he mentioned, Valiant, him sang Don't Check, and he had a bunch of other songs, huge. And I guess one fan of his that realized or recognized that his recent song, Hall of Fame, it wasn't getting the hits or the same views as
some of his other songs, like Black 40, Don't Check.
In the same length of time or whatever. And, you know, I guess they're saying like, oh, you know, people want to talk about the certain content or whatever. But what you're saying though, and I think it's so key because you're saying that stick figures, I'm going to use stick figures because I guess they're your main artist, but stick figure, he does the same songs, the same sound and the same message, and it's this consistency of what he does. Well, we in Jamaica, we like variety and we want to do different things.
I don't think that's the problem.
What do you think?
I think there's two things. I think that our diaspora and our core audience, we're very crab in our barrel. We're negative. The reason we do that first week sale thing so much is because we're like, look at the hype this artist have. We're just waiting for them to fail. Want their first week numbers to come out and want to stick it in everybody's face and say, so you think this artist is hype? Let them know nothing in that first week. See it there? Because I see it all the time. But is it
just us and our culture? Because them do it overseas as well.
They do it, but for us, it's a big thing. And like when you go to even a show in Jamaica and an artist is performing, our attitude is like, impress me. Let me see.
That is true.
We don't go to a show like, oh, I'm a fan of this artist. No matter what they do on the stage, I'm going to enjoy it. No. We go there to with a buckle in your hand, waiting for them to do something you don't like.
Oh, you're talking about
Right?
Sting.
No, I'm just saying generally, our
Generally.
attitude
Yeah.
is
Generally.
formed that way.
I agree with that
So
one, yeah.
instead of us having this attitude of, well, I kind of like,
You're going with good intentions.
but no, well, not the side. It's always adversarial as well. It's like, it's like, are you Gaza or Gully? Like,
yeah.
why can't I be both? Why can't I like both artists? No, you're not allowed to.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
You pick one.
Yeah,
That's it.
like
And then-
they've been always trying to assign a side to us.
And
over
by
the-
picking one, you now have to root for the downfall of the other.
Yes.
That does not behoove growth within a genre. It
No.
doesn't.
No.
I think, one thing that's really interesting is too, is like not being hit reliant doesn't mean not also wanting to have the biggest record possible.
Okay.
So I think of, some different clients of ours, like, I think Kess the band, soca artist, is not hit reliant. Puts out a lot of big songs that do really well. But people aren't like, oh, Kess's song didn't do really well or this or that. But it exists in a space where it can get radio play in certain markets. You can start, getting into new lanes and growing and this and that. And it has hit potential. But there's a core. Like, it's really about, is there a core that's going to listen to your song and be excited for it no matter what's going on? I think Collie Buds is another example of that, where not hit reliant, but he also can make hits. Like, you have a consistent thing, you're growing. He had a record called Love and Reggae that dropped in 2018. Big song, one of the biggest songs in Kenya, Trinidad, Costa Rica, throughout the, big song in the US. Like, it's streaming better than, basically it's streaming better than Come Around is now.
Wow.
Big song, and if you are consistently building your fan base and you're consistently taking those shots on goal to grow your core, then when you do have a song that has hit potential, your odds of it becoming a hit are way greater, because that first inner ring of people
Yeah.
It's wider.
is going to listen to it. Yeah, it's wider, and there's a bigger ring of people. And I think the soca space has done that in a lot of ways, because it's so live oriented too, and it's so built around this carnival season and this time that everyone is so excited about. Everyone in Trinidad leading up to the season, it's like everyone is so pumped.
Like the
to
entire
be there.
country.
The entire country.
Seems to
People
be
are flying
in one accord,
in. Like,
yeah.
it's that's where I'm going after this. I'm going to
yeah.
Trinidad. So it's like, there's
No, I was laughing because we're looking up flights to Trinidad. I would just see the flights, them like $1,000.
Why don't you guys come with me? Sunday?
No.
Yeah.
$1,500 for one flight. Not a wax. US. No, that's too
my flight was like
expensive.
$200.
When you book?
US
When you book?
last week.
Really?
Caribbean Airlines Sunday.
What? I was looking.
There's
and
also a cruise,
Really?
Yeah.
There's also a swim.
Expensive.
A cruise that leaves from Barbados, that carry you there and
Oh,
after
it's
the whole
like
time.
one
I think
thing.
it's a vibes.
Yeah.
It was expensive.
Epic.
But
Yes, what we're talking about.
But yeah.
Well, when you messaged me, you did message me and said that there's a lot to learn from soca.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
apart from what you've already gone into, what else is there that we could learn?
I mean, I think it's hard to figure out how it can exist in its way here, because again, the space is built around live, right? So I'm not sure exactly how that would be replicated, but I
we
do
need to
think
build our live music scene in Jamaica.
the live music scene,
So is it different in soca? Like, where is
Yeah.
there like
it's
spaces for? Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's like, because you have to be able to perform with a band live in person. Like, you're not going and pulling up with a track show or doing this, that. Like, you have to be able to perform, and that's what everyone is excited to see. And so, like, it's built into the way these artists are growing. It's like, that's why, like, Kess can go to New York or Miami or Toronto and sell like thousands and thousands of tickets, because that worldwide diaspora of Trinis and of people who are soca fans are in all these other places in the world too now, but they still associate that whole season. So, I think it's just like figuring out how to, I mean, I think February and Reggae Month and this whole thing is a great kind of thing that exists, and that it's obviously different, but it's something there. But I do think it's about scenes, and it's about people collaborating, and it not being, oh, I'm this person versus this person, but it's about like everybody's working together, rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing,
So that's what we don't get. we really are, as Steve said, like grabbing the bar. Like, it's very.
Who's Steve?
Yeah, random guy.
The random guy over there.
Random brother.
Random guy off mic.
Like it
Off mic
really
man,
is
number one.
adversarial and crab in a barrel. Like when one person do well, like obviously that means I'm not doing well. That's really the vibe here.
And I think I think there's also a lot that the core dance hall scene from here that people from other markets can learn from too. Like undoubtedly, like there is something here where like you work a record on the streets, like you work a record with the DJs, like you're getting it out. Like there is a grind to like creating a hit record. So let's not discount this. Like, I think it's just, we're just talking about, how different things can grow and different like that. But like, if we're going to get really down and dirty with it, like it's
a grind, but is it effective? And are there other effective means and methods to achieving that hit? I guess that's the question, really.
I think it's interesting when you look at, if you pull up something like the Apple Music, to me is an interesting place to look at charts because it's one of the only streaming platforms where you can actually see streaming charts. So you can pull up and say, Apple Music, singles, reggae, and it'll show you the top 100, 200, and it's just an understanding of how much each song is streaming in the past day or two, and Apple Music is used around the world, right? So it's a really good indicator of, I think, what people are listening to worldwide. And if you look at those songs, and this is, I think, a really interesting thing people could do, is you pull up that chart and you say, okay, how many of these songs came out in the past 3 years, right? 4 years. What do those songs have in common? And that's how you can get a sense of what's working and what's not working in terms of globally, And I brought up the Dexadap's "Call Me If" thing because that's a record that has a single that was working on, it is working and was on those charts. Or an artist who might not be as popular in Jamaica but is in the U.S. and in the UK and other places dancehall wise, Cranium, right? Like Cranium, Gal Policy. I sound ridiculous saying that word.
Yeah, it is.
GYA. I knew it was gonna come out. I literally was like, all right, let me think of a different song. You know what I mean?
But like
we
can.
Yeah. But that was this really huge record. Similarly on those charts, whatever. They're working those records. Like that team. Shout out to Pee Wee.
Shout out Pee Wee.
Shout out to Pierre. Like. They're not relying on somebody else. Like they're going in and they're getting the song to the DJs who are going to be DJing every single street party in Brooklyn, in here, in there. Like there's a real method to what they're doing. And so I think it's about
that's the local method
things.
too. Yeah. No, it's continuing saying.
Well, now I just got to think about what other words should I attempt to say and sound like a moron.
Let me ask a question though. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about streaming? Can you speak about
that you can't make money from it. And that like, oh, we should go back to the days where we were selling CDs and I wish we were doing this. Like, no, like, first of all, I didn't grow up with like buying CDs or this and that. I grew up with like
iTunes.
YouTube and iTunes.
LimeWire. No, you grew up with
LimeWire a little bit.
LimeWire.
LimeWire was a thing, but
not Napster either.
Yeah, the Napster kind of thing. So it's like, to me, it was like iTunes and then it was into streaming. So I don't have any like romanticization, like, oh, I wish we were selling all these records on this or that. It's like, what people don't realize about streaming is like, if you go on iTunes and buy an album today for $10 and then you listen to that album like tens of thousands of times, 100,000 times, and you just keep listening to it over and over again, that artist is never monetizing it again besides that initial buy. With streaming, sure, each time you press play, it's not paying them that much, but they're monetizing it forever. And the discovery process and the monetization process are one and the same. So you discover the song on YouTube or on Apple or on Spotify or on Pandora or wherever, and the second you discover it, you're streaming it and they're making money. So the idea that you can grow a catalog of music that you own, that you can make money off of every month, and then you can go out and make those best touring decisions and make the best decisions for your life and not have to play 50 or 100 shows a year when you're 60 years old. You know what I mean? Like you can make these decisions, and streaming has allowed us to get to a place where you can reach people without being reliant on the middleman and without being reliant on a huge budget. You can growth hack things, you can grow audiences. I'll go back to your podcast because again, it's a perfect example. Like a podcast like yours, if this was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's like, you got to get a deal with a cable station and this, and then they're going to tell you got to say this. You don't want to say this because it's going to piss off this advertiser or whatever. It's like independent media right now is growing because of these things that exist. And streaming to me is that. Like, streaming is really a good thing. We
can use, people hate when I use it, American version, but like NBA Youngboy, apparently he is not radio friendly at all. His thing don't play on radio, but he's the biggest thing on the streaming platforms because he's, as you said, core audience, and he's not hit reliant, and it's all there supporting him through streaming. So that's the benefit of it.
He's and consistently just giving out product to his client base that they want to consume.
Which is the songs, right?
A crazy amount of content. Like, he released like 12 albums. I mean, some crazy number of albums, and I don't,
Sizzler.
you know, like you have to keep. And I think there is this volume. I think this is another kind of issue, and something that's interesting is the volume game versus not.
Because as a president, like, how would you tell your artists? Because we in Jamaica sometimes we complain like, oh, people are kill them songs, and then would have put out one song this week, and then next week is our next song and whatever. But some artists like have one song and then push it for the entire year. Like, does that work? Like, how can you?
I think it depends on where you are in your career and what you're trying to do. So if you're early on and you don't have like a real fan base necessarily yet, you do want to be releasing super consistently. Every single week, probably a bit much. A little bit less than that, you want to be releasing consistently. Do you want to go out there and spend a ton of money on every single music video and drop a song every other week? Absolutely not. You should be dropping consistently, often, quality, maybe have some sort of visualize or something for it, see what's working, and then invest in that thing. But you don't know what people want from you yet. If you're a new artist, like, you gotta test the waters and see what people want, and then double down on that thing. And don't think that, you know, you need to start off with this huge music video and this and that in order for that song to have its potential. See what's getting the best response and then make that video. And I think, you know, once you get to a different level, then it makes sense maybe to space out those releases more, to have to drive all your attention to one place. You don't want to, if you split attention, if you drop a song this week and a song the next week, and your biggest fans, half of them are going here, half of them are going there, it doesn't give that song the potential to get as much streams as possible and exist further in the algorithm. So, you know, you want to push, and going back to the Cranium example is right on that point too. They push singles for a long time. And you work them. And I think what people do way too often is give up on songs early, because
I think so.
Like,
songs,
what do you mean? Like, how long you think? How long is it good? What is the right amount of time before you give up on a song?
Think about a lot of the biggest dancehall records that I hate the term, crossed over, right? Like Souljah, Egyptian, that was out for a long time before it came back around for the summer. Party Animal, Charlie Black. Then they did the Daddy Yankee remix, boom boom, in the Latin community, right?
Yeah, Cheerleader was out for like 3 years before it.
So everyone wants to, you know, give up on something, but like, we have to think about seasons. Like, yes, this music does do better in the summer, so let's come around again. All right, you know what? It's gonna dip down. Monthly listeners on Spotify and on other platforms, like, you dip. Like, Christmas is like everybody's lowest streaming day, unless you're Mariah Carey, and then like July is the top. You know, and I think it's like that's the kind of interesting thing of it all.
With the streaming thing, I know this isn't really a big concern in regards to the music, but I think there are some people that worry about messing with the art, in the sense that
for sure
you can have them go in and switch around things while I'm already out. I know that's a bigger concern with movies now. Like, you know, like with the streaming platforms, them can go in and change around this, or them are like, I guess the thing in comparison with buying albums, like, it's the physical copy and it have a bit of, you know, value in regards to this is something that I bought and that I own, while with the streaming is like things can still be changed around and things like that. I don't know if it's that's a big concern within the music. I don't know. The art aspect of it.
I think that authenticity is hard to replicate or fake. Like, I think that a lot of the artists that are successful are doing their own thing. Everyone's creative, like the definition of creativity, like, you have to be influenced by other things. Like, no one is not influenced by other things, but taking that in and creating your own version of it and finding something that's authentically you and then growing from that point forward is always going to is always going to win. Like, so I think that, I don't think we should be making decisions just based off of what, like this is what everyone's doing, or this is what's popular, or this or that. I do think there is still always going to be value in like doing what's authentically you and sticking with it. And that's the same thing with content creation too. It's like the biggest influencers, a lot of them are just like doing stuff that like they're good at or that they learn how to do. And then you have people trying to replicate the same things and they can't grow an audience because it's like they're just trying to copy this person, So yeah, I think it's like there's just more data out there, but I think we need to be thinking with both data and just general like gut feeling, vibe. A hit is a hit. Like you hear something, it's dope. You want to listen to it over and over again. Like when someone sends me an unreleased song that I'm excited about, like I will put my headphones on and just start walking around like in the parking lot in circles for like an hour. And people are like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's a big conversation that Afrobeat is now surpassing dancehall. What's your perspective on that?
So let's think about this, right? So how many people live in Jamaica? 3 million?
Yeah. 2.8.
How many people live in the entire Caribbean?
Enough.
Right. So the overall diaspora that we're talking about of the Caribbean diaspora is tiny in comparison to what Afrobeats is. You're talking about 1 billion plus. You're talking about countries like Kenya, whose populations are bigger than the entire Caribbean combined, right?
Yeah.
So this goes back to this concept of Nigeria.
South Africa,
everything going on in Ghana. I mean, so you think about the sheer size of that first ring that we were talking about before. What is your core? Who are the most reachable people that are going to listen to your music first? It's just so much bigger in Afrobeats. I think it's the same exact thing that's going on with a lot of Latin music and reggaeton and Bad Bunny, who's now basically the top streaming artist in the world.
By the way, I think you should have won album of the year.
I don't have an opinion, to be honest.
Good answer.
I really don't.
Okay.
It's a random question.
Bad Bunny and these guys are using a 90s dembow beat. Like it's dancehall. So, but how many Spanish speaking people are there worldwide in that diaspora? A lot. So now it's 25% of music consumption in the US. So
it's massive.
It's just about that first ring. In order for a dancehall artist to succeed at the same level as an Afrobeats artist, the song has to be a lot better because the first ring of people that understand patois and that are going to get what's going on is so much smaller. So you have to really like hit it out of the park in order for, it's a baseball analogy. I don't know if people really get that.
Cricket, you get it. We get it.
Hit it out of the park, So there's serious disadvantages, but like we have to that is such an important thing for people to understand. Like the main reason of it is just the sheer size of these diasporas.
But I mean, we can have a little back and forth here because initially, like when it come out, of course, like it was big. Afrobeat was big only in Africa, but now it's really like spreading its wings. It's coming here. It's going America
internationally, especially really where dancehall and reggae already had a leg up.
Yeah, no, it feels as if, and I mean, Jamaica is small in comparison, but the reach that dancehall had, I mean, or have, depending on who you talk to.
It's huge.
It's huge, but no, it's really growing. Afrobeat is growing. So it's not just the core, right? Now we see where the core is now expanding worldwide compared to Jamaica. It's still kind of tricky, and I'm thinking where we should be moving forward in that sense. I think we're almost stagnant, maybe regressing.
It's interesting. It's like no one ever wants to be like the
bear of
old guy saying like, this is how the kids should be making music, and like that's all BS, right? Like it's like people should make music the way they want to make music, right? But when people argue that Afrobeats versus like the core today dance hall is easier to dance to, like people make that argument, like okay, Afrobeats you put on in the club and it's easier to dance to than maybe like what the kind of core hits are today, right? People make that argument. Another point to make is a lot of what happened with Afrobeats around the world into these different markets, they were able to tap into what dancehall started. So you go to you have
to explain that too.
So like you have people who were listening to dancehall or people who were programming dancehall in different markets. Like if you go to London and kind of the way that BBC One Extra and the way that certain markets have been built in to support dancehall. Once Afrobeats started being a thing, there were kind of these low hanging fruit things to easily hop into, to promote themselves, to get looks, because dancehall had built that kind of groundwork, right? Where people were supporting this style of music from elsewhere that is similar in certain respects to dancehall, right? So it had this moment where it could tap into these different lanes. And yes, you're right. It's not just about it's existing well beyond the core, but the core is what allows it to spread more, right? Like that's my point, is that first ring is so much greater, and things spread way more based off of word of mouth than anything else. So if you have 1 billion people, and this is becoming 1 billion people's favorite style of music, it's going to spread way faster than if you have a core of 20, 30 million, and it's going to spread from there.
I'm wondering too if, because there is also a huge African immigrant market, like booming, there are a lot of African immigrants, and they probably want their music. So I was also wondering if that also influenced its reach in America, where it's becoming this, I guess, popular now, it's growing in popularity pretty much.
Sure. And I think, that's definitely true. I think another thing that we need to talk about more, and I think Sean Paul has done a really good job of talking about this a lot, where he'll say, I wish that when Ed Sheeran or Justin Bieber did a record with a dancehall beat, they would say, this is a dancehall beat.
House.
Yeah, this is a dancehall song, right? This is a dancehall song. Yeah. If people started saying that and they labeled it dancehall, then people would be able to check out these other artists more. And I think, back to your gentrification point, one thing that a lot of the artists who are in the US who have been influenced by reggae music from Jamaica, they don't go out there and say, I'm making alternative music because it's also influenced by other stuff. They're saying, I make reggae music. I'm influenced by music from Jamaica.
Yeah.
They say reggae. Like when Stick Figure goes and plays Coachella this year, the announcement post that he made was, can't wait to bring reggae music to Coachella. It's not like, I'm not trying to just be like, yo, I'm making alternative music. I think
people don't do that with dancehall.
But people don't do that with dancehall.
They don't claim it.
So if all of these artists were making reggae influenced music, if we work with artists in Hawaii and here and there, it's like if they were to not call it reggae anymore, the reach of reggae would be so much less right now, and people wouldn't know to go check out these. So when Stick puts out this album, Barrington, is on a song, and then there's all these people who hadn't heard of Barrington before now know about.
Evie,
And it creates those opportunities. So I think there obviously are concerns and these things that are fair about cultural appropriation and gentrification, these aspects, obviously. But I think people don't make the analogy enough of what's happened with dancehall, because people don't perceive pop songs as actually just being dancehall songs. So it's not as widely a thing of like, well, that's messed up. Like, what's going on with this? Because people are like, oh no, that's a pop artist.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
and also there's the general mixing up of the two genres.
Yeah, because most people like dancehall, right? The most people are gonna say Shabba is a reggae art. Like, no, he's a dancehall artist. Right. Even the genre, like the Grammys, we complain all the time, like Spice and Coffee should not be competing for the same award because they do two different distinct genres. But I mean,
what do you call Spice's genre? What do you call Coffee's genre?
Spice is dancehall.
Yeah, Skin Out.
What's Coffee?
Genre.
Reggae. Neo reggae even.
I mean, Coffee's biggest records, Toast is not.
It's dancehall.
More dancehall.
But the album itself.
That's true. The album was more than that. That Lockdown and that stuff's dance. But I guess it's
Well, it's even interesting to sub point that point is that even when reggae artists do dancehall songs, they don't shout it out and say, yeah, man, this is a dancehall influence song, or this song is more dancehall than that song, or whatever.
True.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not saying she does or she doesn't, but I don't know if Coffee speaks about dancehall music different from reggae music.
That's a good point. Because reggae is the more brandable thing coming out of our country.
It's more recognizable.
Yeah. So, dancers like, okay, all right.
And that's the name that the digital stores generally call like the category, if you go
Jamaican music and Jamaican artists, it's reggae.
Right.
Yeah. Anything out of Jamaica,
it's reggae.
Reggae album chart, There's no real dancehall specific
even
chart.
soca music like has to go under reggae, right? And that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but and I think that's where when Kess did the song with Busy Signal that came out a few days ago. Like those to me are the types of collaborations that need to happen for things to grow. Like that's like it just makes sense. It's like these two different kind of worlds, but you can see how there could be some intersecting fans in certain respects. And when these things come together, the overall scene and diaspora is much greater, because even within Afrobeats, there are these different subgenres that exist, and then there are different styles of remix and amapiano and this and that.
Yeah, because even you have Afrobeat and you have Afrobeats. That's why like they're two
like
Afropop. I'm a piano and high life. And,
all these DJs and like there's so much, and I think it's like, yes, reggae and dancehall. It's like, okay, it would be great if there was two categories, the Grammys.
Do you ever think it will happen that they will have they made a distinction between the two?
At the Grammys,
at the Grammys, yeah.
No.
I think it's very unlikely, yeah.
No. But Afrobeats, I guess, its own category.
That hasn't been officially.
It's gonna get its own category.
At least their talks, they're exploring.
And it's seen like serious talks.
Yeah.
Because I think the president
it's been submitted. It's been submitted.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for it, right? Is that our diaspora is so small,
right,
and they're so large. So the demand for it is how many people are going to turn on the TV to watch this show if we have an Afrobeat category?
Yeah.
A billion. And
he go up on the and it's like on the main Sunday night and not off stage. You're right.
The reggae Grammys
ratings for the night
never been announced on air. Not even when Sean Paul performed at the Grammys and won that air.
No.
He still had to get it in some back room somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess that's the thing we keep on forgetting. It's a business. I think that's most of the thing that we kind of not remember, because as you point out, there are going to be a billion people watching their Afrobeat artists collect their award, while probably 2.9 if I so much away, because probably not everybody have a TV in their house. So it's like, would that even make a difference? Like,
but I think there's even more to it. Even though that's a good part, I just think there's more to it. Them see the growing influence within their own culture. Because when you have somebody like Charlemagne the God, I say, yo, I feel like said, this is gonna be the next pop or the biggest black music within America. Like that's saying something, because them man are very ignorant to dancer. I just show the growing influence.
Very, like them always ask people like the same thing about pum pum. Like ask pum pum. I'm like, bro, there's more to that.
No, there's more to it. Like the music really make the right type of penetration, if you will.
Very sexual. Wow.
No, your mind is dirty.
Well, she said pum pum and you said penetration.
Probably that's why the connection make real. Speaking of Grammys, we want to talk about and congratulate Kabaka Pyramid.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. Hold on, the stadium applause. There we go. Shout out Kabaka P. We totally predicted this, by the way.
I don't know.
No, we make prediction ourselves. I feel like Shaggy would win, but we all here wanted Kabaka to win. Or
we were saying Sean.
Yeah, Steve, yeah.
Random guy on the mic.
Random guy. Sorry. Yeah. We're glad for him. Well deserved, as we were actually touting the album to be very good and one of, if not the best album for last year. Shout out to Kabaka P. I just want to ask, I guess, how do you think that he was able to land the honor? Apart from him linked with the Marleys, of course.
They've been building his brand and his music in the right way for a long time. Also, shout out Abishai and Dwayne and his management team and Damian Marley on production. And, they've built his music. If you watch his streaming numbers across platforms, they've been growing consistently over time through having a real plan, consistent, cohesive, quality content, big collaborations, pulling it all together, and, bringing the right contributors on board.
I mean, there's a game, but I don't want to say game to like trivialize the work of the album itself. Yeah. But there is there a game that people have to play, and like what does it entail though? Like what people don't really understand.
Well, I think what people understand, and again, I don't think it necessarily is about this album in particular, because I think it's like this is a very well-deserved situation and a team that's been grinding and making amazing music for a long time. In terms of just demystifying how it all works, I mean, it's about
Because I mean, every time when even prior to this, because this is in the recent memory I can think of where it was like mostly Jamaica, all Jamaica, nominated,
which was a backlash against last year.
Yeah, having the white man win. Souljah, I think it was.
Why are you pointing at me?
The white man win.
But
people always like it's like
the most unfortunate thing to me was like I'm actually a Souljah fan, and that this wasn't an album. It wasn't a Souljah album that I particularly enjoyed.
See,
I kind of felt like, this album have to do it, because if it was another album, I think people might have listened to it and been like, yeah, well, this is actually not bad.
The thing I would say with Souljah, and honestly, I think when you all had Christy Barber on, it was a great
she cussed and said,
no.
vote.
I was like, all right,
this is what you actually have to be doing.
But I mean, look, Souljah. And I know all those guys really well too, and they've been working hard for a long ass time. Like, this band's been around for 25 years.
Wow.
You know, so it's not like this thing that came out of nowhere, and it's an award show based in the US where American bands are going to have an advantage. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the general way that it works is that people who have a certain number of credits, creative credits, can become voters. So if you're an engineer, or you play trumpet, or you whatever, you have a certain number of registered credits. I believe the number is 5 on physicals or 12 on digital. Then you can become a registered member. And then there's a certain number of categories that you're allowed to vote for. And it's changed how many you're allowed to vote for. And so it's about getting as many people who are registered voters to vote in your category. For your category.
Okay.
So, and then there's all sorts of different ways of networking within that system, and becoming more part of events within the Grammys, and becoming involved in your local chapter, and getting to know other people involved. And
look what
that's how it works.
Why you don't want to condone that?
What?
The cash money thing is no cash money.
Do I think people are bribing people for votes?
I don't know.
I don't know of any specific person who's gotten money in exchange for voting for something.
Well, I guess I'm a skeptic in that sense, where it's like, if there's something that I can ask you to do for me, that is a valuable thing for me, and you control whether you do it or not.
It's a barter exchange.
Listen,
FIFA.
anything that I'm just saying, anything that holds a value and can be traded from one person to another, at some point will be paid for.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about social capital?
Yes.
Hear man in Caucasian words.
Social
and
capital.
phrases,
Social capital.
Oh no.
But yeah, what she's saying, stop going like you're smarter that way.
Welcome, Adam. Welcome to the club.
Okay. Welcome to the club, for real. Well, shout out to Kawaka Pyramid though. Well deserved. Well deserved.
Absolutely.
Those Grammy picks, they look clean too.
Right?
Clean. Yeah.
I mean,
Shot, man.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation prior to the start of the interview. They said, like, why is it so difficult for, like, white groups and reggae acts to be so, like, accepted? If you think there is a disconnect there with the broader local reggae scene, why it's so hard for them? Because we're never happy for Souljah, none tall, and we're not really happy when they're like the other.
I don't buy into this idea that white artists are being discriminated against due to their race.
Good answer.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, in regards to achievement, yes, but in regards to like being respected here locally,
connecting. That's why I said connecting.
But there's a huge amount of talent locally. Like that's the thing that's crazy about Jamaica, is like, we're talking about all these genres around the world that have been influenced by a country of 3 million people. So like, you just walk around. I went to the Bob Marley celebration at Emancipation Park, and I'm just walking around, and I just run into so many different artists that I know, and producers, and this, like, everybody's there. You know, like the amount of talent per capita, to use another really like
per capita,
like the amount of people, like talent, you know, that there is here is ridiculous. So like it's going to be harder for someone that's not from here to be able to kind of tap in, who's making similar music to it. It has to be a really, really dope song. I think Collie Buddz did that with Come Around. I think Gentleman has done that. I think J-Boog has done that.
Yeah.
I think Magic, it's a little different, but
so
rude. Like it's a pop record, but like it's plays a lot. Like, so, I think it's just like you have to be, just like how there's a disadvantage for, as we were talking about, like for like a dancehall record has to be so much greater to reach that broad audience because the overall diaspora is so much smaller. Because you have so much talent here, if you're an artist from somewhere else and you want to be taken seriously, like you better have a really dope record.
Okay. Fair. And
what do you think off stage, man?
And I think that's fair too. Like
random
man.
Sorry, I wasn't playing.
got distracted. No, but I think that's fair to like.
Sorry, my only thing I wanted to throw into it was like I remember back in the day, right, when Reggae Sunsplash was a thing. Reggae Sunsplash used to have an international night, right? And on an international night, you would have reggae acts from all over the world that would come here and they would perform. And okay, it was a smaller night for sure. But people, you got a chance to really look at the stage and be like, "Wow, this band is from where? Wow, okay, wow, them look like they're trying to imitate how we dress, they're trying to imitate our swag, they're imitating music," and it gave you a greater appreciation of the worldwide footprint that reggae has. So one of the things I was gonna say is that whereas Jamaican diaspora might be small, the reggae diaspora is actually huge.
Exactly.
But there's very little unity in it because we don't mix between the scenes. Like there isn't like Jamaicans don't know who's making reggae in Hawaii. Hawaiians know who's making reggae here. You better believe that. But there's no reciprocity, and so there's no connectivity between the various blooms and
they are some, but they're not. It's not on a broader scale.
There's not enough.
There's not enough.
And we don't make enough of a reach out, I believe, to some of those other cultures, because those cultures all rate us. So it's that they're like, I'm not gonna link you, no, I'm not gonna link we.
And let me tell you as well, what you say is 100% true in regards to just appreciating the reach when we see, somebody like that embrace the culture. But as I did say earlier, when it comes down to achievements, as like when we see them achieve certain things, or I say, oh, they're just doing something to a lesser version that what we naturally, but yet still they're achieving things. I feel that's where the backlash comes into play.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like we appreciate, say I do it, I show say the thing, widespread, but it's like, win awards and I get acclaim for something that is almost like people attribute to, oh, you did this or started this or, popularize it, when here's the source. I wouldn't really get that type of praise or acclaim like that internationally.
Yeah.
And you think is there any effort on Ineffable Records to try and do more stuff with local reggae acts? Slash dancehall acts. Like
he's in Kingston right now.
Yeah.
No, same good as taking the bad road.
And his music conference.
I mean, look, if you were to pull up our releases, I'd say it's close to 50-50 in terms of Caribbean versus not Caribbean. And, a huge focus of mine has been on creating collaborations between areas that people wouldn't expect. So we did a record between The Green from Hawaii and Egyptian, produced by Ricky Blaze, called Feelings. Great record. People didn't expect that to come together. We did this project in 2020 and then 2021, and we're doing another one this year called Cali Roots Rhythm. Collie Buddz produced it, and we introduced, believe it or not, a lot of people in the American scene don't know what rhythms are. And so we introduced that entire culture to people by creating a rhythm aimed at them, but that brought together artists from all these different reggae markets around the world. The song with Anthony B on that rhythm ends up being the top streaming song. And if you pull up his streaming, most streaming platforms of his, that's his top streaming song now, right? And it popped into this new market. So it's been a major focus of just trying to create generally this understanding that everything is way bigger together. The overall reach is way greater than anyone thinks. And to me, it's been all about, creating collaborations where possible for artists from different areas. I mentioned the Kess Busy Signal record as something that's doing that. The Stick Figure Barrington record. Collie Buddz did a song with Bounty Killer last year. there's really countless examples.
So collaboration is key for Ineffable
Collaboration,
Records. Yeah,
100%. And it's like this is where people I think have an interesting like understanding of how marketing works. Is like people are like, yo, if I have this huge marketing budget, like that's how my song is gonna pop off. It's like I'd prefer you have a huge collaborator with no marketing budget than to have a huge marketing budget and no collaborator, because you're going to tap into that audience, because that first ring of people around that artist who are going to do whatever they're putting out there and check it out are going to check it out. So collaborations are a win for everybody.
Yeah. And I hear you talk about visuals too. Like, music videos are important for your marketing.
Music videos carry different levels of importance based off of the market. So as you know, here, music videos are super important. In certain areas of the music video isn't as important. Like, people don't really consume as their primary method music videos. So maybe it's not as important to spend as much on the video than you might spend elsewhere. So I think it's just understanding the market and what can be done best, because the way I think about any dollar that's being spent is a dollar that's taking more time away from that artist recouping and making money every month from their music. Any dollar that we spend, I want it to be in a way where I know if we spend this dollar, that project is still going to recoup in a reasonable amount of time, and that artist is going to start getting paid out. I don't want a situation where an artist in 15 years hasn't recouped their project that we did together because we spent stupid money on something.
Yes. Which, because many Jamaican artists, them complain about that to like publishing people them not have, they don't know that, so all that sort of thing. So you're pretty much trying to help them. If they sign with Ineffable Records, all those things are clear and easily explained. And
I'm not trying to take something that we shouldn't be getting. I'm not trying to take royalties. I'm trying to explain to you how you can make sure you're collecting royalties that you're not collecting. A lot of people don't realize that if you release music, there's all these different ways to collect it. Like, you're publishing. If you don't have a publishing deal, you need to have a BMI account or an ASCAP account, and that's collecting all stuff. Then you need to have a song trust account. Then you need to register your mechanical royalties. Then you need to have a sound exchange account that collects Pandora, Sirius XM, and digital radio plays. Then you need to collect for the master side. So most likely there's money sitting out there that you're not collecting.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
There's a whole heap of money out there.
During the beginning of COVID, we started going through Sound Exchange, which is where it's Sirius XM, Pandora, iHeartRadio. It's like digital kind of radio. Sorry, not digital, like non-on-demand kind of play, right? So like Sirius XM or Pandora, it's like radio style, but it's not terrestrial. We started going through and seeing.
So it's like they just put in like at random, because what do you mean? Like,
right. So like and by the way, just because we haven't mentioned this, shout out to Pandora, who has been an incredible supporter of reggae, dancehall, soca. Diego has been an absolute hero, pushing for stuff at Pandora nonstop. Like, he has made it his life's mission to get this music supported.
Nice.
So shout out to Pandora. But
unfortunately, nobody in Jamaica knows what Pandora is.
Diego's done a good job of getting a lot of people. I mean, it's not available here.
No,
that's what I'm speaking of. You know?
Yeah,
but that don't matter as long as it reaches.
As long as But so point is, Sound Exchange collects Pandora royalties and Sirius XM and these things. And if you go in and you register it, it'll backdate it and it'll collect stuff from the last 3 years. Wow. So what we did at the beginning of COVID, we just started searching different artists that we didn't work with, and then we would just email their manager, being like, "Yo, you've got all this money waiting to collect." And you name the artist, like big artist, 3 months later they get a check for $100,000, and they may have made $0 from the music that year. We just started going through and being like, "Yo, this guy's not collecting. This person's not collecting. This person's not collecting. All right, let's just email their manager and let them know."
And you don't ask for nothing from
nothing.
That?
No.
You guys are doing God's work.
I don't want to say that, but it's just
we'll say that because ain't nobody else doing that, bro.
Nobody. Like, if you do that, it's like, I get up.
That's like you found money on the ground and you start walking around saying,
"Who is it?"
No, worse. You start walking around saying, "Well, since we don't know who this is, let's just give everybody a little bit of money."
Right? Yeah, and then split it up. That's usually the case. Like, none always hurt me like the music business. I said, even if I had a little speck of talent of singing, I would never do it, because I watched the TLC music video and how them
music video.
TLC documentary. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then how them talk about how them break it down, and it's like literally pennies of pennies. Like, 1/18 of a penny them I get as them salary. I'm like, I would never work with that. But how you do it, that's God's work for you. God, trust
could
me.
says one of Jesus' son.
One of Jesus' son riding on a camel.
Yeah.
A very hungry camel.
Yeah.
I just think in general, like, it's like long term, doing like good business and like being normal and like
fair and
whatever, like that'll work out. Like,
I think so.
I don't want to sit here and be like, you're doing all this stuff just to be blah 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 like this. Like it is.
No, but it's also
good business.
it's good for the genre, right? I mean, and if it's good for the genre, that's the genre you're in.
Yeah.
So you're feeding yourself in the long term.
Yeah.
True.
And then those artists gonna turn on and be like, "Yo, you guys want to distribute my next record?"
That's how it works.
Creates goodwill too, you know what I mean?
Just right.
From that,
goodwill is good business.
Yeah, from that experience where you say, "Yo, that's money."
Creates relationships.
Yeah. So them, I'm sure them keep in touch and like and do that.
Yeah, I just think that generally sharing information, not being insecure that you're not going to be able to figure out how things work next if you share everything you know, like that whole gatekeeper concept we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's just like,
do you think that's the truth for in our industry? Like
do we have an industry really like that? Sorry, this is one. That's one of my soapboxes. I like to get on. That like I like to talk about like that. I feel like we don't do that. We don't share resources. We don't share information. We're very protective because we all feel like there's only a limited amount of paths. Right. So we feel like there's only a certain amount of we can go through the gate. So I can't. It's something I always say as Jehovah's Witnesses, right? They tell me there's only 144,000 people going to heaven, and I'm like, well, why are you telling me about it? This doesn't make any sense, right? So it's kind of the same concept. Is that we feel like only a certain amount of people can bust. So
I will be 165.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? So if I figured it out, I don't want to tell nobody because then the next time I put a record out, I'm going to be competing with this guy. And I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I think
but that doesn't grow a genre.
No.
Well, I think that's the underlying thing because like there is competition going on, but
we're small. We're a small nation, so it's just like
what enough of them don't realize is that even though there is competition going on, you still want there to be a thriving industry where even though competition is going on, like enough more people can eat food, which will grow the industry, which will make everybody bigger. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the broad scheme of things.
The second time that I ever met Shaggy, he said to me, he's introduced me to somebody he works for, and he goes, "Yo, this is Adam. He's the most hated person in the music business." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm the most hated? That's a crazy thing to say."
That's how you're introduced?
He goes, that's what he said. I said, he goes, there's two reasons why. He goes, one,
thanks, I
because
give
old
you
school people are challenged by the... That's the headline.
That's perfect. I see.
What was I thinking now?
Sorry, finish the story.
He goes, there's two reasons why. One is because old school industry type people are challenged by the business model of sharing information and doing things in this way. One, and two, you're not part of the culture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those are both fair things. And he doesn't actually, he doesn't actually mean hated, but maybe by like old school industry people who are like, then I get it.
Might cut this up, but you're Jewish though?
Yeah.
Trifecta.
There we go.
Trifecta, right?
We don't need to cut that up.
Yeah,
we don't need to cut that up.
We'll leave it.
Oh my God.
But that's a real thing, right?
It is a real thing.
That's a real thing that people like actually think that there's this crazy conspiracy.
Yeah.
What is that? What is it?
Yeah.
You think it's real?
Guys, to control the world. Is it true?
Is that what that is? You think it's a real thing?
Nah, not necessarily. It's just that I don't really want to get into this, but it's just that
I want to.
They've been
Let's go, man.
a part of building
if not the fix, then
the industry. Yeah, they've been a part of building like certain entertainment industry. It just
okay, so
makes sense that they're going to be.
So
in the
why did there end up
roles.
being a good amount of Jewish people working in Hollywood? I'll tell you why. Because Broadway was the high class entertainment industry in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, no, you dirty Jews, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. You can't be here. Go over there. That's the dirty industry. So,
which is Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Think about any industry, right? So within the US, there's all sorts of industries that there are more people of certain ethnicities than others. So like policing in the US, there's a lot of Irish people because when the Irish first came to the United States, the Irish were discriminated against.
Absolutely.
No Irish allowed. A generation goes by and Irish people just start looking like white people. They assimilate into culture, but their parents were police officers, so their kids are police officers and this and that. So there are industries that groups end up in more so than others due to being discriminated against. And then from that, people start creating these insane conspiracy theories that are incredibly destructive because they start making people actually think that these things are real. And then all of a sudden there's increases in hate crimes, there's increases in this, and there's increases in that, instead of just understanding like why certain things work the way they do. And also understanding exactly Jewish record label executive over here. I'm trying to do good. And yet I'm going to get some ridiculously insane DMs or WhatsApp messages with people saying crazy stuff like Hitler and like you get crazy stuff.
Wait,
Pussy, where your Jew gold there?
you know? People send that to you, like
yeah, for sure.
Of course,
really?
of course.
You of all people should know blah 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 blah.
Yeah, Ari.
No, I mean, because I don't know if you doing anything negative, so I'm just
No,
like,
but
trying to
still,
figure out,
That doesn't
like,
matter.
that don't
Doesn't
matter.
matter, though.
No,
Don't
but,
matter.
because I mean, bias, that kind of a especially that kind of a racist or religious
By
bias
association,
doesn't
yeah.
come from logic.
No.
It just
absolutely
it
not.
comes a lot of time. It comes from generational. It's like my dad said this, so therefore I believe
Right.
that.
So
You know what I
even though he's hearing parting large and him do several good things, like people are
Yeah.
gonna pick and say, yo, like,
Or-
there's some corruption
and-
involved.
Or,
there.
or they're gonna say that your reason that you're doing the good thing is to do
absolve
something
from
else, you know,
yourself.
Something like that.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't. To be honest, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you guys. Well, the Jewish community, they were ostracized from Broadway, which would be like stage acting.
Yeah.
And to go into the movies, like picture films, I didn't know that was the situation. So obviously, it would make sense why there would be more of more people, Jewish people in the entertainment community.
Yeah, and I
don't know.
think it's this conflating. It's this idea of like, you know, let's talk about the issues in the music business. Let's talk about the issues of power.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the issues that exist and the corruption and these things.
But you don't think
But let's
there are
not
few-
say Jews.
Yeah.
Let's say individuals. Some of them are Jewish. Some of them are not Jewish.
Yeah.
Some of them are white. Some of them are Hispanic.
Some of them
are
black
this.
too.
Some of them are black. Some of them are everything. And so it's like, I think people, it's very easy, especially with the way social media exists today, with the
Yeah.
way algorithms exist today, that hateful speech is going to spread way faster than nuanced conversation.
True.
And so
This is a great segue, by the way, into our next topic. At least the topic I want to get into, the whole Valiant thing. You know, that people said that negativity sells more.
Yeah.
Like, is that necessarily true, especially like within our music? Because it was a post. Sorry, I did interrupt your point, but I finished and then we're going at
Where was I?
Well, that's how. No, because
Oh.
you're saying that, you know.
Yeah,
there-
so like, you know, when Kanye is going on his whole thing,
Yeah.
and every single day it's just getting wilder and wilder, and he's
Right.
saying Hitler was a good guy, Hitler was this, Hitler was that, right? Like
he's a madman.
wild
Yeah, he's a
stuff,
madman,
right?
yeah.
And like, you know, it's like, yo, what do you think Hitler would have thought of you, Kanye?
Yeah,
He would have sent you to a
exterminate
concentration camp.
Everybody.
You're
You wouldn't have got that far.
like
But the thing is, though,
Let's-
like,
it's-
can you contend though that there probably is a power, and like Jewish people from, and again, this is just basic. You're probably like the first Jewish person I'm meeting.
Exactly.
But like that, there's like
Well,
a
that you
power.
know that you're meeting.
Well, that I know of, right? But like the concentration of power that you talk about, the power dynamics, especially in the entertainment business, it's now changed where you guys have more power. Don't you think that's fair? Like you guys have more power,
And
maybe I don't want to say control, but control of like certain resources and access to people, industry, insiders, so on. So like there's more
I think there are
connection there too, because like you can probably say, hey uncle, I want to be this, and that probably can help out versus a black person, not necessarily.
none of my aunts or uncles or parents
Yeah.
or anything worked in music business.
And they probably didn't want you to be in it either.
You know, like
No?
like no one, no, they support me, but that's not what they thought I was gonna do when I was
That's
a
what I
kid.
mean.
You know, so it's like no, like it's like that's not hasn't been the case with me, and I think.
But you've never met somebody who's also Jewish who's like, oh, you're Jewish, and there's like a commonality there.
There's commonality between people. Yeah, but again, it's not like there are individual people, and sure, when you meet other people who are similar to you, you might see eye to eye on something or this or that. But like, the funniest part about it is exactly what you just said. Like, okay, you're the first Jewish person I've ever met before. So you have all these people making these ridiculous accusations or thoughts about Jewish people who've never met a Jewish person before. Like, that is just the most ridiculous form of ignorance that exists, right? And you have to understand on a macro level why people get to the thoughts that they have, right? So you have to think, okay, well, is it easier to point your finger at somebody and blame somebody for something, or is it easier to like get into the nuance of it and understand everything, or should it be easier to blame this group of people? Because it's like, the funniest thing to me is like, why did everyone decide that it's like Jews are the ones and not like wealthy like white wasps who are like why is it not like
that
like
the Chads of the world?
Let's not forget who loves like nobody like this is not like the white supremacists are chanting on the streets, Jews will not replace us. Like, they don't want any of us here.
Yeah.
It's true.
So
Facts.
it's like any sort of conversation, and instead of actually just understanding, how these different things work, instead of like coming to quick conclusions, is exactly what the people who really dislike all of us want to happen. So I don't know, the whole thing this last year, it's been very eye-opening and interesting to see, because you just start to like see people come out of the woodworks from like, what? Where did you think this? Like,
so all while go on, we talk about collaboration throughout the night. That's been a theme, and we've seen even just on a micro level, like how collaboration between Black people and Jewish people in the music industry can be powerful.
It's
Yeah.
been,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and that's been the case for a long time.
I was gonna say.
By the way, like
And I-
when
but
you go
it-
back
I-
all the way to
Nothing come on,
MLK,
we have
That's
big
what I was
nose
gonna
now.
Just
Mine wide.
there's goes this way, this goes.
Yeah, that's all right. But the two race them now with them big noses.
that's how
we have a
that's
lot
how
in
you
common.
knew. That's why you looked at me and he was like,
Yeah, I'm Jewish.
he's Jewish or Italian.
Yeah.
Something. I mean, no one ever knows what I am. People,
But to be honest, I didn't even know that. Like, well, as I said, like I'm assuming it's always more prominent Jews that would have gotten the hate, and not necessarily somebody who probably out of the limelight. And as they say, you don't want to be famous.
not like
That's not something
religious
that you
or,
want. But I didn't know you'd be getting hate too, and like.
Really?
Yeah, because
I didn't think you would. I don't know why.
because
I'm not
people
doing
are
nothing.
believing, because people are going down the rabbit hole, and once you start down a rabbit hole, let's go back into algorithms. Like, once you start looking at certain content on
True.
YouTube, they're gonna start
Sucking
feeding you
you.
all that
Feeding,
stuff,
yeah.
and all of a
True.
sudden you think the world is flat and that the Jews have space lasers coming down from the earth to kill you. Like all of a sudden.
You know, for chat Kyrie, so yeah.
I'm Margie Taylor Green that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. It's been very
Exactly.
interesting watching American politics,
Yeah.
because sometimes I say, Baba, like them things are going for, like you thought those things died out from 1960 and it's now 2022, 2023, and we're still going through the same things. It's like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like,
Yeah.
you had a president whose name was Barack Hussein Obama, and then the next president was the person who was
saying that
he wasn't born there, and like that's
crazy to me.
that's the big
That's the
reality of the
consequential,
situation.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
like
it's
we have our
cycles,
first.
right? It's cycles and reactions.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it, like Barack is really the most consequential president, because he's the one
Yeah.
that realized that racism wasn't dead. How they want to put it, or how they try to claim that America has moved forward, but no, it was probably dormant or probably hidden. And I see that with John McCain, like he was like one person, he wasn't born here.
Right,
He's
the one line, yeah,
and
yeah.
she's like, no. No.
Yeah.
And
He's a
that's why
good.
he
He's a
lost the
good
election.
family man.
Yeah.
He's a good family man.
And as I said, that's where he lost the election, because he wasn't willing to buy into the racism.
Totally.
And he said,
Totally.
well, Donald Trump come up now, and it's all happening.
And
before it
Obama, in his first term, had to mention race. He mentioned race less than any Democratic president in the last like 40 years or something. This
Which is crazy.
because he had to. because if he brought up race in any way, he's going to start scaring off these like white moderates who like, got persuaded to vote for him or this or that. So he had to like walk this really tight line to be able to stay in power because like he's just dealing with racism and like just trying to convince people like no you should trust that like this is not like I'm not gonna ruin this country, or people being like your middle name is Hussein.
You're a terrorist.
In Texas they literally had a vote, the school board had a vote, the government, to change every president's name was in their textbooks as just first name last name. They changed it for Obama. Instead of saying Barack Obama, they changed it to add in the Hussein.
Of course.
Just so that people, like, just to otherize it more.
Commit that name there, register.
Can you imagine what his DMs look like?
Imagine,
But then, we talk, but
probably a lot of,
certain tropes are real, are true though for the Jewish community.
Come just ask, I don't want to go any further in American politics.
Like, and like there's like more Jewish people in power in the entertainment industry.
Put it like this. There has never been a Jewish president.
You think there will ever be one? And I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about entertainment. I said that specifically. There is like a more concentration of Jewish people in power in the entertainment industry. No?
I think there's if you think about it, there's 14 million Jews in the world, which is nothing. It's less than the whole Caribbean population, right? There's only 14 million Jews in the whole world. Wow. 6 million of them were killed. So there's lost 25% of all of them, right? So yes, in terms of like, is the number of Jewish people in entertainment versus the number of Jewish people in the world higher than that number? Yes. Is there any sort of conspiracy to control the industry or for everyone to work together against this or then that? Absolutely not. So I think it's just the tropes is where it's dangerous, and it's about understanding why people end up in the different positions that they're in. Like here's a weird example, but like Subway restaurants in the US, a lot of them are owned by Indian people. Yes,
I think I read that. Yeah.
Because
because Subway business model was like to franchise it all. Yeah.
So it starts becoming a thing within a community, and then other people get involved in this and that. But there's not a conspiracy of Indian people trying to control sandwich consumption in the U.S.
No. Okay. All right.
No, but there is the trope of Indian people controlling jewelry or controlling,
But business like 7-Eleven now. I know that.
7-Elevens, right? 7-Elevens and jewelry, and then in Jamaica we have a thing that Lebanese people control, the clothes and control hotels.
Yeah. But I think it's this word control.
Chinese people. I was gonna say Chinese people control. Well, they control everything now. But
sounds like a trope.
Yeah.
And these politicians sell we out to them and all.
But what I find with just like
but you're talking about like the actual Chinese government doing a lot of investments in the Caribbean.
When I said the Chinese, I meant the Chinese.
Right. But that's not individual.
Right. No. Exactly.
Making this.
Correct.
No, but imperialism happening. Own wholesale out here.
Yeah. The Chinese in Jamaica are like known to control the whole wholesale business.
Yeah.
Always have. Just before they were making
indentured servants, when Indians and Chinese when they came over,
and for a similar reason for what he's talking about the Jews being forced to go to Hollywood because people were like, well, we're not going to hire you to work in our business, so they were forced to have to go into their own business where the business wasn't about the person, it was about the necessity of buying this wholesale product. So you didn't really care who you bought it from. In other words.
Well, thanks for educating me, Adam. That was enlightening.
You like your first conversation with a Jewish person?
It was fun.
I'm almost sure we spoke to a Jewish person.
I don't know.
You've definitely. We can go through your guests.
I'm almost.
You can tell by the last name usually.
I'm almost sure.
If there's a Berg at the end.
Yeah.
No,
Stein.
But well, the interesting thing is in Jamaica, the Jews in Jamaica are mostly Sephardic, so it'll be like other names, but there will be many Jewish names.
Sephardic, which is more like looking like
Orthodox.
No,
like Spanish and Portuguese, really.
Sephardic and Ashkenazi. It's geographical. So like like for me, like a quarter of my family came from Syria originally. I have family from Austria, different parts of the world, but the color that came through to me was my Middle Eastern part.
Yeah.
Like my dad looks like me, my mom, you know, is like 5'2" and very white. You know, like I look nothing like her. So it's like the Sephardic part of me came through a lot more.
But then you can't hide the nose.
Sephardic.
No, can't hide the nose.
So your both parents are Jewish?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Sephardic though. I need to learn that word, Sephardic.
We don't want to talk about Valiant and that whole thing there.
With negativity?
Yeah. And hopefully Random Brother can weigh in on this as well. Because I believe it was a post. I don't know if it was Valiant posted or, but Valiant did comment.
This is a blast.
Yeah, this is a blast. And it gone all over. I think Ramesh did repost it as well. It was a screenshot of a music video for Hall of Fame. Somebody named Kane2X says, commented, he released this like a month ago and it only got 418k views. But when he dropped Glock 42 weeks ago, it already has 2.2 million views. SMH, then y'all complain about dancehall gone down. But no same wanna bring it down cause y'all don't wanna hear motivational, positive music. All know a Glock 40 pa my belly, me clot it when me ready. She a dog shit when she ready. Valiant responded, I respect this so much. Then you have the likes of Ramesh weighing in and reposting the same conversation with the caption, my IG fan much views on this, why when artists do positive song, the world don't love it. Like the songs that sing about less positive than media, and so much people fuss say artists do this and that, but yet the same big people them not spread positive song in media. Then you people, same one, now watch and share. What are your views?
Well, is it very interesting to me because one of the things that was in my mind when you were talking about why is Afrobeat taking over, quote unquote, from dancehall in terms of like just the cultural, taking our cultural space. And Adam talks about how, you know, spaces that were created for dancehall and reggae are now being, you know, proliferated by Afrobeat.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that a big part of the reason is that at a certain time, I don't know how exactly what period, dancehall started getting a lot darker lyrically. And it became a lot about what you just said a while ago, this Glock on your belly and bust out man, head back and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's always been a part of dancehall. But it became the hits, quote unquote, that we talked about earlier as well.
Yeah.
The songs that were coming out that were being spoken about, were being, you know, sensationalized were those kind of songs. And I think a lot of people that originally gravitated to dancehall and Caribbean music as a whole was because they wanted to party.
Yeah.
It's like Adam said, it's summer music, it's beach music, it's party music, right? We've always been known as the gatekeepers of cool. In any community, if you wanted to know what was cool, what's the cool shirt to wear, what's the cool music to listen to, you went down the block and you found a Jamaican guy and he would tell you, right? But he wasn't talking about killing people and chopping up man and blah, blah, blah. And so when dancehall started to go down that road with such a huge volume of dancehall being about that kind of topics, and scamming, I think, had a part to do with it, right? That whole negativity as well and that energy that came from that. Then people start going, well, where's another danceable music that doesn't talk about stuff like this? And they turn to Afrobeat. So that comes back to something like this. So now you have a genre that's 90%, okay, let's say 80%. Let's even for argument's sake, say 70%. Violent, dark, aggressive music.
Yeah.
And you have an artist who's known for lyrical content like that, right? And then he drops a song that is completely off, not about that. This really positive song, whatever, inspiring.
Yeah.
The algorithm doesn't even recognize the song. The algorithm goes, what is this? This must be some kind of analogy. Let's not push this to all of even Valiant's fans.
Because you feel it really has to do with the algorithm?
It has to do with the algorithm.
I think it's simpler than that.
No, I'm saying that's part of it. The other part of it is what I said before. But also it's that if this is what is rewarded within this genre, that's why that song is not rewarded, because it's not something that's a viable, huge part. When you can dance, is there like okay, well, now we're going to play the inspirational segment and we're going to play 20 songs that are inspiring. But that's when nobody's there.
Yeah.
But there are songs like that get forward in
there are songs that will break through. Yeah. There are songs that will break through, and usually those songs are not by artists who do mostly dark music.
No, because Yaxta would say Yaxta.
Correct. I was going to say Nation Boss, right?
Yeah.
And that's somebody I was going to draw for.
Yeah.
When Humans came out, it was like, wow, this is so different. Wow, cool. But he also doesn't have 10 gun song that he released last month.
No.
So I think that has a lot to do with it.
I agree. I agree with all that. I think, one thing that's interesting too is just so in general on social media, as we know, controversial things spread way faster than non-controversial things. It's going to get more engagement. It's going to get pushed harder. People be like, what's this? You engage with it. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One is people don't realize that like YouTube ads. Okay. So sometimes you run YouTube ads and they work well. Sometimes they don't run out the gate. Sometimes there's different things. And when you run a YouTube ad, every single person that views that ad, it counts as a view. So a way that people are jacking up their view count is they're running YouTube ads in specific territories.
Okay.
If someone views that ad for 5 seconds, it counts as a view. And sometimes they don't work out the gate. So there's all these factors where like literally you could have a video that does like 500,000 views in a day and another one that does 10,000 views in a day. And like the only difference is that YouTube ad started running on time and it was able to literally push out 500,000 views. And so a lot of artists are running YouTube ads specifically in Jamaica, and you're targeting a certain audience and you're able to rack up those views at not super expensive of a cost. So on one element, just looking at straight up YouTube numbers of like, yo, this song did this much in the first week versus this one is oftentimes missing what actually if those are active views or if they're more passive views. And then the other element of it is like, yeah, I mean, some people just want to hear certain things from some artists and there's something that works for some people and things that don't work for other people. And then when they do go that other direction, you know, to Steve's point, it doesn't know who to service it to.
And I think mainly too, sometimes when artists do positive songs, it's almost as if they do it as a, like to say, oh, I did a positive
checklist.
song.
Yeah.
Like there was no, you don't feel emotions, like the same emotions that when they put in the gun song, it don't reflect the same. Like
same energy.
The energy, the quality doesn't reflect the same in like their quote unquote positive song. So it's almost like they do it to say, see, when they don't like positivity when it's like, well, and I'm not saying that for every artist.
Sure.
No, not for every artist.
What
but
kind of
for most.
That's the point. That's the point. I
estimation.
wanted to get into that specific to a Valiant. Like when you listen Hall of Fame versus the other popular songs, the production better.
Yeah.
It sounds better sonically. Them songs
spend more
versus
time on
this
other
song.
records.
Yeah.
That's what I think some of the time. Like, and even if you put up a magnifying glass.
Maybe because he also knows that song is probably going to get less of a reaction.
Hence, more work is put into it.
Yeah.
This Hall of Fame song, we just put up a magnifying glass to this. Even the video itself, it's 6 minutes long, 6 minutes 42 seconds. The song don't start in the video until 2 minutes in.
That's
a
wild.
reason
Like,
too.
this is not going to be like.
That's not going to get that.
like this is not going to be the avenue
I wish
where
we knew
somebody
that
listen
part
to
off
this
the bat.
song.
Right,
So that's a part of it as well.
That's probably the biggest part
Probably
of
the
it.
biggest part here.
And even with that as well, like there's interpolations, like it pause and then you hear people speaking like, this is not gonna be the first avenue I got to listen to this song. So like, I feel like this argument right here sort of disingenuous.
Yeah.
It's like if this YouTube show is posted later and you have like a whole like 30-minute part beforehand where we're all just sitting here looking straight ahead.
You know, like people are going
And we
to
usually go, but them usually go on Patreon.
But yeah, you're right. It ruins the viewing experience, and not everybody wants to listen to that, and probably go straight to just the tease or the official audio versus the video. But I mean, as you said, they use it to say, see, they don't like positive song. Like, no, we like the song. It's just we don't like the video.
Yeah.
That sometimes
we like the song, and we should play the song earlier in the video.
you know what I mean? And let's just be honest.
What kind of
but all I go on.
It's the wrong podcast.
Yeah, it's wrong. All I go on. Like there's certain things that we like to hear from certain people. Yes, I do admit that it seems like our culture have an affinity for bad man song, like bad manisms. You know what I mean?
But
But
especially
to say that people gravitate to negativity, if that was the case, everybody that do a chopper song would have boss.
but majority of them bust.
No.
No, not really. It has to be of a certain quality.
True. Okay.
For the most part.
I think music generally has to be of a certain quality for people to consume it on a large volume, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of negates your point. I feel like negativity is something that right now we are gravitating to. It's something that's a lot in our society. It's something that we see in the news and on social media every day. People are getting murdered. People are getting killed. There's scamming going on. The FBI is here right now investigating a bank, blah, blah, blah. These things are things that are real in our lives. So therefore it reflects in the music. I'm not blaming the music because that's ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
Right? That's like looking in the mirror and saying, I don't like what I see in the mirror. right? If society is this, then music gonna be that. So that's part of our problem too. But the point is that the negativity is something that we like because we identify with it.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
But
it still has to be good.
It has to be good. And that's the thing, like if we never...
And it means that the inspirational music has to be better.
True. And if there wasn't any inspirational music, a good inspirational music, then people like Chronix wouldn't have a career. People like Coffee wouldn't have people like Lila Ike would I think one of the strong points of our music that there's a whole lot of variety.
Yeah.
But there has to be a balance.
Because I remember I was asking about consistency because in our culture is like people switch it up. People do different things. So but you're saying like once the artist is consistent, they do this. They find the sound, they find the message, and it's consistent throughout their career. That's what works for them. It builds the core audience, as you say.
Yeah, and I think everyone's influenced by different things, and no one's gonna make the same exact song every time and everything like that. But I think it's about locking into a mood. I mean, I think Chronix is a good example where some of his biggest songs are actually dancehall records, and some of them are more roots reggae.
Dancehall tinged.
Yeah, sure. But you have like Smile Jamaica and Skank and Sweet, and then you have Likes, and then you have there's different things that it's popping into, but it's all fitting into the same mood, vibe, feeling. So it doesn't have to be that the production style is exactly the same subgenre, but there's something about what you're going to expect from it that made that album specifically grow in the way that it did. And also I think it's like, there are like, for instance, what category of song would you describe like from rags to riches as?
Wait. The specific song like from TJ?
Yeah.
Oh. That's all.
Yeah, that's all.
No, but like
in terms of mood or
yeah. Like it's not a gunman tune. It's not
that's why it would more lean towards like reality type.
Reality type, like
conscious.
But it's also it's conscious, it's kind of inspirational.
Yes,
It's like that was one of the biggest records in this scene in a long time. And it did have this conscious uplifting sound to it. Like that's the one that comes to my mind when we're talking about all this negativity that's existing in the core space and this and that in terms of that. But like that to me is an example of a record that like I hear that song, I don't think it's a negative song.
No.
That's an interesting example to draw for. I think the difference to me between TJ and Valiant at this point in Valiant's career is that Valiant is very much right now on his crest, right? Whereas TJ is kind of like established, like people. TJ almost can do no wrong, if you understand what I'm saying. Like his fan base is kind of like, all right,
with him,
we're with you, because to refer to what you said earlier, he has fed them a steady diet of quality music for a long time. That body's like, well, if you released it and you put it out, we won't believe you, we trust you. I don't know if Valiant's there yet,
right?
He's still building there.
He's still building. That's true.
He's still building.
And
to be fair, I mean, how long has it been since the bus?
Like
10 minutes. I mean, give him a break.
3 months. Yeah.
For real.
I love what he's doing, by the way. I just shout out to Valiant.
Yeah, shout out Valiant
for sure.
Yeah, people just have to understand how certain songs function.
For sure.
In the market.
But also this is like we're talking very specifically, I think, about specifically the type of dance hall and that's working here. That's what we're talking about here. You brought up Leela and this and that, and to me those are different. It's a different thing because that's working in a different kind of world.
But it still works here.
It still works here.
Yeah, but you know what? Actually, sorry to cut you, but I actually wanted to talk about that a little bit because is it working here in a way that those other artists are working here? I don't know. Like,
not on the same level. No.
So then that's
when
kind
you say level, what you mean? Because I feel like they're still like if you put them on a show, them still able to pull the same level of crowd as
are they?
Someone.
You feel so?
I just think that in regards to like running the place, they're not seen in the same
amount. Leela not gonna pull the same amount like Valiant is now.
No way.
No. Leela isn't going to pull the same number of people.
I'd say
but if the Valiant crowd comes, she can still rock
probably Valiant are the wrong
crowd.
example. Valiant
hot.
Right.
Super hot.
Yeah.
So
but like any other dancer artist,
okay,
like
I'll give it that.
You know, I feel like she can do similar things. And she does way different music.
Yeah, but I'm not, because you're saying like the quality, how she rock it, how she rock the show and whatever.
She's a dope artist.
Ilila is an amazing
Dope.
Well, that is a
performer,
part.
like,
and what
that-
he's saying is that in terms of her songs and the reaction to her songs, people know her music, people know who she is, people recognize her, etc., etc., etc. You know, she's as much a personality on the scene then.
okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think it's like there's also the, to Steve's point about the negative, or sorry, to the random guy off over there. I'm gonna like drop my mic again or something. So I'm like, this idea about like the more negative music and just being a reality in response to what people are going through and this kind of stuff, and how those kind of songs are, a lot of those artists are the artists who are, their YouTube numbers are amazing but their Spotify numbers are not. And some of these other numbers, like artists like the Leelas and the Chronicses and all these other examples that we're talking about, their worldwide numbers are greater, right? So there's something to that in terms of this conversation of, well, only negativity or this or that is working right now. And well, what does working mean? Like, are we talking about what is working on YouTube in one specific space? Are we talking about, and like,
I'd love to see the numbers. I don't have them here. I'd love to see the numbers on Spotify for this song specifically, all of you.
Are you on? Do you have Spotify?
Oh, yeah, I do. I can look it up. Okay. I'll check now.
No, but you know what? It's really interesting because it's something that again, that's another one of my soapboxes is that we don't take Spotify seriously here. Not enough people are on Spotify. I feel like we as a culture need to get on Spotify.
Yeah, we'll consume music through YouTube.
But we just spoke about YouTube pays less.
Yeah.
So if that's like saying I know there's 2 stores I can sell my product in, and both of them are open, and I can go into both and say, hey, could you sell my product? But I'm only going into one, and the one I'm going into is the one that sells a product for less money. That doesn't make financial sense. That's not business smart. Everybody needs to walk up in Spotify and be like, yo, we're there.
But then wasn't there some restriction against Spotify? Because I remember.
Well, it wasn't available in Jamaica, but it is now.
Okay.
But you got to pay for it. That's the big problem.
Yeah.
But hey, it's not expensive.
$2, right?
There's a free model.
There's a free model too.
So
even if you took the free model, cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I can't tell you how many artists I encounter where I'm like, yo, what's your Spotify page? And they're like, oh, I don't have one, or I don't know what it is. Yeah. Or I go on there and there's 3 different Spotify pages because every producer then get a song. So I have to put Spotify page for them with a different picture. And so they have no followers on none of them. And what it makes it look like to somebody who looks from the outside is that there's no support
for
this genre.
Yeah.
Well, there's no cohesiveness, but there's no support for this culture. So if I'm trying to get somebody to do a song with one of these artists, they're going to look at this and be like, but
that's where they're going to pull up first.
But his Spotify numbers are terrible.
Exactly.
And you can say, oh yeah, but his YouTube numbers are great. It's like, but I don't care about that.
Especially when you know the
I make my money over here.
Manipulative tactics what people can use.
No, but I'm saying exactly. But what I'm saying is, if you make your money on this platform like most people do, then that's where you should be concentrating, trying to make yourself look good and trying to make yourself do better because you make more money. If artists from Jamaica, like we're talking about Valent, if Valent was doing the numbers on Spotify that he's doing on YouTube, man would be rolling.
Wow.
Hard right now.
Yeah, I don't even see the numbers. So
well, it depends if the producer has the.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, generally speaking, if the genre was doing the numbers on Spotify that it's doing on YouTube.
Yep.
They're not top 10.
For sure.
Well, Adam, we're gonna let you go. Thank you for coming. I know there's
great.
more. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast that we did. It's
and I'm not gonna watch it because it's not negative.
True.
No, but you forget
it's too informative.
That's true.
We're gonna put the title at the bottom. It says most hated man.
Yeah. That's how I'm gonna draw them in.
No, Shaggy says most hated man in the music business.
We're not.
Yeah.
I'm getting a text message right after this.
Writing on a canvas.
I know what the title's gonna be. It's okay.
Oh my god.
His middle name is Gross.
Bust the Utes.
There we go. Bust the Utes time.
Oh yes,
there we go. Let's ask the guest first, Ari.
Wait, me try to remember which one I'm at. Oh, all right.
Guess Adam Gross.
Yeah,
You
what's
had a
your-
song that you wanted to bust. Remember the name of the artist on the song?
Ari Souljah, What It Feels Like.
All right, hear it to people.
He kind of said Ari.
Yeah, it's like him say Ari a while ago.
I was like, wait, what?
Like,
Me?
Ari
is a
will
soldier.
never become an artist, never.
Nah, not a Souljah either.
Zero talent whatsoever. Yeah. But here we go, Ari Soldier, what it feels like. There we go. He has talent.
You're such a hater. I swear to God.
This combined when we are together, like lyrics from my heart will last forever. I would have swear, but no, never expected love.
Alright, so that was Ari Soldier, What It Feels Like. Ari, who's your song?
Okay, my busty
An artist this week.
is Lusion, and the song is Hide and Watch.
There we go.
Got chatting, pussy good, me jealous over everything. Me don't need that from your put it from me skin to skin. Heart race, you a boot up me adrenaline. Treat you like a queen, me a your psycho king. Me take a banana boat if you go for it. Can't make you left for me no try a thing.
Alright, so that was.
Lusion, Hide and Watch.
Alright, that weekend man go with you one.
Who's
here.
your busty this?
I thank you for falsely, fakely asking that. I go to you one name Blu Lyon song called Bus Here, much at a bag of things on it. Here it is.
Now your bank account they are minus. Plus, when them play money, play the chorus. Dark talent don't work. They don't care. You want bus, you have to pay your bus fare. Cause them want money, DJ want money, radio show and podcast want money.
Alright, so that was Bus Fear Blu Lyon. That was Bust the Youth Songs of the Week. And that just about does it for our time here. Give thanks to our special guest Adam Gross for passing through.
Check him out at the Island Music Conference this week.
There we go.
Thursday and Saturday.
Yep.
Where is it? Courtney?
I don't remember.
Pegasus.
It's
Jamaica Pegasus.
Oh, Jamaica Pegasus.
There we go.
I don't think it's. I think it's right next
thought
door
it
to
was-
the Pegasus.
I thought it was a Pegasus.
It'll
thought
be
it
in the
was
description below. I don't know.
Click the description
It's
below.
Cortland.
Let's look up on the
Cortland.
IG page and see
It's
the
Cortland.
It's a
location.
Corley
Is it
Auditorium.
Corley?
Yeah.
Cortland Auditorium.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
I remember
We have
looking it up.
technology. Yeah, there we
I remember
go.
looking it up, yeah.
Give thanks again for passing through,
Yeah,
Adam.
thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, man, give thanks. Where can the people follow you on Instagrams?
At adam.g.r.o.s.s.
Wow.
You'll see. You'll see.
You'll see it. You search
okay.
adam.g. and like the rest will show up.
There we go.
Gross, like disgusting.
All right, what do people look after?
Follow me on Instagram at ARIHAMMOND.
I don't know, say can for me, EDOTNARO, that's E.Naro on the Instagrams and on the Twitters. Follow us across all social media platforms at the FixJA. Twitter, Instagram, the TikToks, like our Facebook page, facebook.com/FixJA, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/FixJA.
And it's at the Courtly Auditorium from 10 to 6.
There we go.
That's right.
And I'll read that, people. Geek out.